Excuse me, I'd like to call this meeting of the New York State Housing Finance Agency and the State of New York Mortgage Agency to order. I'm going to turn things over to the acting secretary who will take the requisite legal steps to formally open our meetings.
Morning, everyone. I know that Todd Sherman, representing the Director of the Division of Budget, and Chris Curtis, representing the Commissioner from the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance, are participating in the meeting via video conference from the New York State Division of Budget Conference Center at the Capitol Building, Room 131 in Albany, and Marge Rogat is participating from Suite 312 from Champion Office Suite, located at 1225 Franklin Avenue, Suite 325, Garden City, New York. Can everyone on video hear us?
Yes.
Thank you. I will ask for motions and seconds to call in the order the August 16, 2016 meetings of the New York State Housing Finance Agency and the State of New York Mortgage Agency. Motion for HFA
So moved.
and a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion for Sunny May
So moved.
and a second. Thank you, Marge. As items are presented to each board throughout today's meeting, these motions and seconds will be used unless specific items call for a different vote or unless any board member or director wishes to record his or her vote differently.
Okay, let me turn things over to President Rubin for his president's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very quick. This is a short meeting. I appreciate that everybody who's here was able to accommodate us, and for those who weren't, I don't appreciate it.
You'll remember that.
Yes, I know where I was going with that. At this morning's Mortgage Insurance Committee meeting, which some of you will remember from 10 minutes ago, 3 projects were approved for insurance representing 403 units of affordable housing. Coming up in just a few minutes here at HFA, we'll be seeking your approval on these same 3 projects, an incredible coincidence, located in Albany, Erie, and Kings counties. We are, in other news, we continue to work very hard on lots of different interesting projects. And even in the few brief weeks since we last met, we've had some terrific events celebrating some of the work that the agency has done. July 19th, the Doe Fund had a great, I did a groundbreaking at Webster Green Apartments out in the Bronx. It's a great building. It's going to be built for the Doe Fund guys who are formerly homeless men, typically, who are doing work projects around the city. July 25th in Buffalo, there was a ribbon cutting at the Evergreen Lofts, 56 units of affordable housing. July 26th in Oneonta, my first visit to Oneonta, there was a groundbreaking and a walking tour that I took of Oneonta with the mayor of Oneonta and a bunch of his colleagues, and got to look at a lot of the work we've done in that town, which is interesting. It wasn't just the housing, but actually we've done a lot of Main Street investment there. So the whole Main Street of the town of City, I guess the city of Oneonta, has been remade largely because of the work that this agency and Chris Leo's folks have done. It's really very cool. August 10th in Rochester, there was a Stadium Estates ribbon cutting, 45 units that Ruth Ann Wisnauskas did. And then on August 11th in Syracuse was the Governor's Sustainability Conference, which our agency hosted one of the panels there, and as usual, it was a roaring success. And the governor made some terrific remarks at the beginning. I guess that gets us up to the present, so I turn it back to Bill.
Thank you. Let's see. Let's go back to Linda.
So I will deliver the report of the committee actions. First, the report of the Mortgage Insurance Committee. As Jamie noted, as President noted, the committee took the following actions earlier today. The committee adopted the minutes of the July 14, 2016 meeting. The committee recommended the approval of 100% mortgage insurance on a $25,700,000 HFA permanent mortgage, first mortgage loan for Surfette Place, Brooklyn, Kings County. They recommended the approval of 100% mortgage insurance on a $6,520,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for AP loss at Larkinville, Buffalo, Erie County. Approved a 100% mortgage insurance on a $5 million HFA permanent loan, mortgage loan for Ashfield Apartments, Latham, Albany County.
Okay, we'll now present items shared by HFA and State Mortgage Agency. Linda will record the approval of the minutes.
The minutes of the HFA and Sunny May meetings held on July 14, 2016 shall be deemed approved absent correction from the members and the directors.
Item 2, resolution approving compensation adjustments for senior officers. By the way, which one are we going to go into exec?
We're going to go into exec
Okay, down.
after. Yeah.
Okay. Item 2, again, as I said, resolution approving compensation adjustments for senior officers. Material in connection with this item were provided to board members by separate cover. There will be no discussion of this item unless board members so request.
Now before the HFA and Sunny May board for approval is a resolution of the State of New York Mortgage Agency and the State of New York Housing Finance Agency authorizing senior officer compensation adjustments. Assuming the first and second previously entered for each agencies, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 The motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Now we'll move to the Sunny May action items. Item 3, resolution approving 100% mortgage insurance on a $25,700,000 permanent first mortgage loan for Surf Vets, Brooklyn, New York County. This item was discussed and voted on earlier today's Mortgage Insurance Committee meeting. It is now up for a vote by the State Mortgage Agency Board. There'll be no discussion unless the director so requests. We'll now move on to the vote.
Now before the board for approval is a resolution of the State of New York Mortgage Agency approving 100% mortgage insurance and a commitment for the provision thereof for an HFA permanent first mortgage loan for Surf Vets, Brooklyn, New York County. Assuming the first and second previously entered for Sunny May, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Okay, Linda's now going to take the requisite steps to go into executive session.
I'm requesting a motion and a second from the Sunny May directors to go into executive session pursuant to Section 105F of the Open Meetings Law to discuss the financial credit or employment history of a particular corporation. Assuming the first and seconds previously entered for Sunny May, those in favor of going into executive session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We'll now be in executive session, so I'll note for a record that we've had a motion and a second to reconvene the public session. We're now back in public session and no votes were taken in executive session.
Okay, item 4, resolution authorizing an amended and restated credit support agreement relating to senior lien revenue bonds and a credit support agreement relating to subordinated lien revenue bonds, each by and between State Mortgage Agency's Mortgage Insurance Fund and the New York State Convention Center Development Corporation. And just like to make it clear, I will be recusing myself on this item.
Good morning. Pursuant to legislation adopted in December 2004, the Mortgage Insurance Fund of the State of New York Mortgage Agency is authorized to provide credit support for the bonds of the New York Convention Center Development Corporation, a subsidiary of the New York State Urban Development Corporation. The legislation created the Development Corporation Credit Support Account within the MIF. Following approval by the board, Sunny Mae entered into a credit support agreement in November of 2005 to provide credit support in connection with the issuance by CCDC of $700 million of its revenue bonds, hotel unit fee secured. These bonds had ascending debt service, which started at approximately $35 million per annum and ascended to $60 million over 40 years. Last year, the 10th year after the 2005 bonds were issued, these bonds were refunded in the amount of $632 million with level debt service of $40 million for the remaining 30 years. Our exposure was 1/3 of that, or $13+ million. The proposal now to issue the Series 2016 bonds is to issue approximately $195 million of senior current interest and capital appreciation bonds and $222 million of subordinate current interest and capital appreciation bonds. The debt service on the senior bonds will be a level $43.5 million over the next 40 years, which is essentially the same as our current obligation, as debt service on the current bonds is $40 million per annum. And debt service on the subordinate bonds ascends from roughly $2.2 million to $24.5 million over the 40 years. So our maximum exposure in any given bond year would be $8.2 million. Both the senior lien bonds and the subordinated lien bonds will have debt service reserve funds equal to 100% of their respective maximum annual debt service, or MADs, which will be funded from bond proceeds. And the senior lien bonds will also have a revenue fund equal to 80% of MADs, while the 2016 subordinate lien bonds will have a revenue fund equal to 80% of bonds, which will be funded from excess cash flow over roughly the next 6 years. To date, there have been no claims under the existing credit support agreement. Citibank, the lead underwriter for the bonds, has run several sensitivity analyses on future hotel unit fees, the source of repayment for the 2015 bonds and the 2016 bonds. And the analyses demonstrate that it would take a 14.5% reduction in the projected 2018 debt service hotel unit fee collection of $48.8 million, with a trailing 7-year recovery before the debt service reserve accounts equal to 100% of MADs, and the revenue funds equal to 80% of MADs were entirely depleted, and the credit support account or the credit support sub-account within the MIF were utilized to pay debt service. The reduction during the fiscal crisis in the hotel fee collection was 8% with a 2-year recovery, which hopefully is representative of a worst-case scenario. We currently have within the MIF a Convention Center Development Corporation credit support account that is approximately $34 million. And as part of the issuance of the 2016 bonds, we will establish a sub-account within that account with $8.2 million for the subordinate bonds. So we'll have about almost $26 million remaining in the credit support account for the senior bonds. The bonds are are structured so that debt service, total debt service on the senior bonds and the sub-bonds increases 1% per annum. The projected hotel unit fee collection are projected to increase roughly 2.5% over the next 5 years and 1.25% thereafter. The historic rate of increase since 2005 has been almost 5% per annum. So the hotel unit fee projections are very conservative. They're initially about half of historic, and then they decline to about a quarter of the historic rate. The current hotel unit fee collection, which is about $46 million, is adequate to service all of the senior bonds. And with the assumption of 2.5% increase and then a 1.25% increase, it's adequate to service all of the sub-bonds. I think the bonds are well structured. They're very adequately reserved. We have adequate reserves established. Any requirement on the part of the MIF to pay claims and to then replenish our Convention Center Development Corporation credit support accounts is on a parity basis with claims against existing mortgages within the project insurance account or the single family insurance account. And in the history of the fund, we've never had a year where the mortgage recording tax collections was not adequate to cover new claims on project loans, claims on single family loans, and a potential obligation of up to $23 million on our credit support agreements. So I recommend approval of the resolution to the board.
Any questions?
Okay.
I mean, I guess I should say it's a large deal. I agree with you. I think it's well. I don't have any financial issues with it. We did spend a lot. I mean, Mike and Laura and I spent a lot of time talking about it over several months. When did this first come to us?
In the spring.
In the spring. And it's moved around a little bit, but it's largely the same as it was when we were talking. I think, right?
It is.
There's been some. I gather there's been some change in the last. When did they do the upsize?
I guess subsequent to Brexit, the deal was upsized based on a reduction in interest rates.
With no change in the cash flow.
Yeah.
Okay. With no change in the cash flow profile of the deal from our perspective, so that's fine and good for the state, I guess, or good for the Javits Center. So I don't have any issues with it. Question, just so we can get it out. The questions that I've asked around the mortgage recording, not the mortgage, or the hotel tax, have been have been answered by Mike and Lauren, I guess with the help of whoever did the analysis for the deal. Just the stability of the tax, what the profile of what the pipeline of new development in the hotel world looks like. We talked a little bit about the impact of things like Airbnb, and I'm satisfied myself that there's the projections that we need in order to make this deal work are conservative. So I think this is fine. What are we being paid for this?
The premium will be about $1.9 million.
Just note that there was a changed page in the memo that is in your folders and was distributed yesterday. I think we need to note that for the record.
And also for the record, we should note that the chair recused himself during executive session, as he did during the public session. So now before the board for approval is a resolution of the State of New York Mortgage Agency authorizing the State of New York Mortgage Agency Mortgage Insurance Fund to enter into an amended and restated credit support agreement relating to the senior lien revenue bonds and a credit support agreement related to the subordinated lien revenue bonds. Assuming the first and second motions previously entered for Sunny May, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Again with my recusal.
Again with the chair's recusal.
Item 5.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5, resolution authorizing community restoration fund. That's you. That's you.
Sorry about that. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to spend just a half a minute talking about the history of Sunny Mae's interaction in the single-family market, sort of during the storm of the fiscal crisis and after it. Everybody knows that ground zero for the, whatever we call it, the Great Depression fiscal crisis was in single-family mortgage lending. And when that first hit in New York, we looked at ways that we could try to help address the issues and bring solutions to the table. And we launched 2 initiatives immediately. One was Keep the Dream, to try to keep people in their homes. And the other was a partnership with Fannie Mae to transfer REO properties from Fannie Mae to not-for-profit groups. We specifically did this in Long Island. And we found that as we were launching those products and initiatives, the world was still continuing to unwind. And we really couldn't get our footing in what was a constantly shifting market. But now we're a number of years out from that, and the dust has settled. And we've circled back first with the neighborhood, how can I not remember the name, restoration program, which we've been to the board with a few months ago, which is meant to help stabilize communities by addressing the vacant and zombie properties and moving homeowners back into those properties. And now today we're before the board with a new initiative to create a new subsidiary, the Sunny Mae Community Restoration Fund, which will give Sunny Mae the authority to purchase non-performing loans itself and real estate owned properties. We're also seeking the board's approval to participate in an upcoming FHA non-performing loan sale and to purchase delinquent mortgages out of the Sunny Mae resolution at par. The whole reason for this initiative is to help keep people in their homes. New York is a judicial foreclosure state, and because of that, as other parts of the country have seen a decrease in their default and foreclosure rates. Now on a national basis, we're at 1.77 nationally. New York State is above that average at 4.49. Sunny Mae itself is less than the state, but above the national average, and it's because of this very long lead time in the foreclosure process. So what we're hoping to do is really insert ourselves with the homeowners by building out a partnership of not-for-profit partners throughout the state that will intervene with the homeowners and work with them to come up with a budget that might make them be able to afford their homes. We're going to develop guidelines that speak to the ways in which mortgages can be modified in terms of lowering the interest rates, maybe even decreasing principal to make the loans affordable. And if it's determined that there's not really a viable solution, we're hoping that having a not-for-profit partner who does foreclosure mitigation counseling can help bring that household to a soft landing with the resources that are otherwise in the community. I want to get into a little bit more of the details of this, but before I go too far, I really have to give a shout out to Ruth Ann Wisniewskis, who doesn't look like she's at all.
Walked in, good.
Oh, okay, well, that's perfect timing, because I really see this as something that Ruth Ann brought to the agency as something that we ought to pursue, and she's been working hard on it, as has Sherry, of course, and Evan Holonia, who I think is in the room. I don't know if Sherry's in the Albany office. But it's quite comprehensive and really quite an interesting thing for us to do. So our next steps are really to build out the partnership that will let us implement this. We've identified not-for-profit partners in all areas of the state that we want to bring to the table. We're finalizing the budget. The budget for this will not be Sunny Mae revenues. There are going to be settlement dollars that are coming from VHE. And we're also going to bring on a servicer to service the loans, because we're going to buy the loans and hold the loans. We need a servicer at the table, as well as a program consultant. And we expect to return to the board in September with our guidelines for how we're going to modify loans and move forward. The CRF is also going to have a to-be-formed advisory board that's going to be made up, it's legislatively required to be made up largely of not-for-profit organizations. So all in all, I think it really puts Sunny May where it ought to be, as an entity that's committed to sustainable homeownership, addressing vacant properties in communities, and doing what we can to keep homeowners in their homes at a level that's affordable to them. So I'm really
This is
excited
great.
about
It's
it.
really interesting to, Marge will find this interesting too. I mean, this is like one of these things that when you get out of New York City, it's hard to appreciate from sitting here how much of a focus this is in the rest of the state. You know, home ownership the profile is different, obviously, in New York City than it is, you know, the rest of the state is more like the rest of the country. It's more home ownership model, whereas here, obviously, we've got rental and single family, but it's a really big deal. You know, mayors are really focused on it. Local officials are focused on it. People are focused on it. Just lots of different. You know, it's much more viewed as an emergency, whereas here, I think in New York City, it's more of sort of a, you know, another part of the housing picture, another part of the housing problem. The New York City has done it. They just bought 24 notes. So it's a focus of theirs, but it's like a little bit of a strategic piece, whereas outside of here, I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, and it seems
The
a
difference-
complement to NRP.
Sorry?
The difference between New York City and the rest of the state is that it shows in the community and in the neighborhood. And I think it's fabulous that we're doing this. I was very excited when I heard about it. I know that people on Long Island specifically are very excited about it. It, as you say, Marion, it puts Sunny May where we should be. And I think we should be very proud of it, and we should do everything we can to support it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Plus, it's good for the local, I mean, because it energizes a lot of these local groups. A lot of the land banks are really at the center of this, which is great. It's a real, I mean, New York State really leads the way nationally, I think, in terms of local land bank formation and activity. It's just it's great for everything. It's really an interesting part of the
Marion,
Yes.
I know that there are quite a few moving parts, including the funding agreement, but what is your estimated time of going operational with the program?
Well, the bid on the upcoming FHA note sale, if it hasn't changed, is mid-September.
Have they set a date for the auction?
I believe it's September 15th.
15th? And is it multi-day, or how does it work?
I think it's just
Just
one
like
bid
the-
in. So we have a lot to do between now and September 15th to make sure all the pieces are together. We'll get a list of what the properties are. We have some sense of, you know, how much money we might have to work with and what's available in the note sale. And we're really looking, in NRP, we took at least at the start, a very targeted approach to trying to do things in a community that would really move the dial. So we identified 10 regions in which to work. Here we want to do something that's much broader and cast a net wider. So we're touching almost every part of the state in this effort. And it looks like there's non-performing loans in a very broad range of communities around the state.
So, Marion, the servicer procurement that you mentioned, that will occur after the auction?
No, we're in talks already. We're assuming that we will work with our current servicer on the single-family program side. We have a pre-existing relationship, and they're already at the table.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Any other
Anyone wanna
questions?
say anything?
Now before the board is the approval, now before the board for approval is a resolution of the State of New York Mortgage Agency authorizing the creation of the State of New York Mortgage Agency Community Restoration Fund and authorizing certain acts thereof. Assuming the first and second previously entered for Sunny May, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is
Aye.
carried. The motion is carried and the resolution is adopted. There being no further items for the Sunny May Board, I guess,
I'm going to ask for a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
So moved.
assuming the first and second previously entered for the Sunny May Board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 The motion is carried and the meeting is adjourned.
Our next board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, September 15, 2016, at 8:30 a.m. Now we're going to move on to the HFA items. At this point, Linda will call to order the Finance Committee meeting of HFA, which will be held jointly with the HFA and AHC board meetings.
I'll ask for motions and seconds to call to order the August 16, 2016 Finance Committee of the State of New York Housing Finance Agency. Is there a motion
I will move.
and a second?
Second.
As items presented to the committee throughout today's meeting, these motions and seconds will be used unless specific items call for a different vote or unless any committee member wishes to record his or her vote differently.
Who are the HFA board? Who are the? So Marge is not HFA.
No.
Taxation and finance,
DOB.
the chair, taxation. No, budget and taxation or budget, HFA, and yourself.
Minutes of the 57th meeting of the HFA committee shall be deemed approved, absent corrections from members. Item 6, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $37 million for Servets, Brooklyn, New York County. Back again.
Good morning. Wearing my other hat. We're before the board this morning with the financing for Surfet's Place in Brooklyn and Kings County, which is a new construction development in Coney Island of a 9-story building which will contain 135 units of affordable housing, including 82 units of supportive housing for homeless veterans. This project will help the agency deliver on the governor's commitment to provide 1,200 units of supportive housing for each of the next 5 years. The TDC of approximately $68 million for this development will be financed by the requested $33.5 million of bonds, $24 million of proceeds from the sale of tax credits at $1.18 per credit, subsidy of $14.5 million from HPD and HHAC, and $13.75 million of OMH capital. The 82 units of supportive housing will also benefit from project-based vouchers. We expect to finance this mortgage loan through the open resolution with the construction LLC from Bank of New York and permanent credit enhancement from the Sunny May Mortgage Insurance Fund. The development team for Surfets is a partnership between Concern for Independent Living and Georgia Good Green Ventures. Concern is a Long Island-based supportive housing developer and service provider and will be the service provider for this development. We've done a number of other developments with Concern for Independent Living, both on the HFA side and through our 9% tax credit program. The same thing is true also for Georgia Good Green. We finance developments with the Georgia Good Green with both tax credits and bonds. The general contractor will be Surf Avenue Construction LLC. Management company will be Concern, and the architect is Stephen Jacobs Company. The project will also include a considerable amount of retail space. It fronts right on Surf Avenue in Coney Island, walking distance from the train station and the boardwalk. And the borrower anticipates master leasing that 7,000 square feet of commercial space, either to an entity affiliated with iStar Glenwood or an entity affiliated with the project sponsor.
Any questions?
Now before the committee and board are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution adopted. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 The motions are carried and the resolution's adopted.
Item 7, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $21,560,000 for AP lofts at Larkinville, Buffalo, Erie County.
To keep things interesting, we're going to go to the videotape. It's going to present these next two items.
Hi, good morning. AP Loss at Larkinville is in the city of Buffalo. It has a really great context. Larkinville is an area of Buffalo that has really taken off, a lot of commercial and market rate housing. Nearby is a lot of older affordable housing that serves very low income people. And there remains a few large buildings, one of which is currently under construction for more market rated commercial. And this building provides a real great opportunity to provide housing for people between those very low income and market rate. It's a great adaptive reuse of, I think we'll have a great before and after photo. If you see the photo of this property, it looks basically terrible. Right? I mean, it's a big concrete pile, basically, and it's going to become quite remarkable. So this is a $40 million adaptive reuse project of the Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company warehouse, which was built in 1910. It's going to become 147 units, 118 of which will be affordable under 60% of AMI, with the remaining 28 affordable to 130% of AMI. So this is a really nice use of our middle income program. We're asking for funding of $21.5 million of fixed rate taxes and bonds and a $2.4 million allocation of the middle income program, as well as an allocation of just over $1 million of 4% low income housing tax credits. The project's also pursuing, I think it's later today, through HDFC, a $4.8 million award under our new construction program. There's good leverage here because it's participating in the federal and state historic tax credit programs, but also it's a very high priority for Buffalo, as the Buffalo Urban Renewal Agency is providing almost $1 million towards the project. The investor is Alliant, which is going to purchase the tax credits at $1.04. Citibank is the letter of credit, and Sunny Mae is providing the insurance. This is a new borrower for the agency. KCG has been very active in affordable housing. They're active in many of the states that have substantial affordable housing programs, including Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and a bunch of others. But this will be their first project in New York State, and we're actually talking to them about a couple other projects. I had the opportunity to meet with them and Roger Harry out in Buffalo and Lenny Skrill a few months ago, and we were impressed by the potential. They seem to be able to do some very interesting projects, and this is good evidence of that. Any questions?
They're in the audience apparently, so don't say anything bad about them.
Oh. Hello.
No, the chairman had to step out for a second, so we probably ought to wait until he's not recused from this one.
He's not recused from
Okay, we should wait. Probably wait till.
Okay.
Okay.
But no, we spent time talking about it. It's a good deal.
Bill, we'll ask Brett to entertain the board while we wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can tap dance, so don't walk on eggshells. You know, since I will, Phil, you want to see this a huge building, and they're going to actually demolish a donut hole into the big building to provide for light. And they're going to use the huge floor plan to provide parking, indoor parking, because there's so much floor space in this warehouse building.
Okay, why don't we take a vote?
Absolutely.
So now before the committee are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Item 8, resolutions authorizing financing approval in an amount not to exceed $14 million for Ashfield Apartments, Latham, Albany County. We back on the videotape on this one?
Yes.
Hey!
Thank you. This one's for Ashfield Apartments in Latham, Town of Colony, in Albany County, nearby here. It's a mixed income preservation and adaptive reuse project. We're going to finance the acquisition and rehabilitation and conversion of this existing 6-story building, which was constructed in the 1970s. It's 120 unit. It will be 120 units for seniors age 55 and older and those with disabilities. 91 of the units will be for households under 60% of AMI and 24 of the units under 90% of AMI, which is an interesting mix for an adaptive reuse preservation deal, especially in this suburban community. We're asking for $14 million of tax-exempt bonds. The project will be seeking $6.6 million under our new construction program, which also provides funding for adaptive reuse projects such as this. The investor will be First Sterling. Sunny Mae is providing the mortgage insurance, and Chase is providing the letter of credit. Liberty Affordable is the borrower. We've done a lot of work with Liberty Affordable over the years. This will become 120 units of housing. There are currently 55 units that exist at the property. It had been a skilled nursing facility and convent on the remaining floors, which have now been vacant for a while, so that space will be made into residential units. A previous project had converted some of the units, had created 55 units previously, so this will kind of finish that project. It's located within walking distance of a pharmacy, grocery store, shopping, and restaurants, and there's public transportation available nearby. The existing chapel at the property will be converted into a community theater. So there's a lot of nice things going on with the use of this old building. The purchase is being undertaken in a way that we really like. It's a $6 million purchase price from Our Lady of Hope Residence Little Sisters of the Poor. That purchase price includes the assumption of a $600,000 HDFC loan that was used to finance the previous housing conversion, and a seller note of $4.9 million.
Are there any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you, Brett.
No questions.
Now before the committee and the board are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right. There being no further items for HFA Finance and Program Committee and the HFA Board, I'm going to ask for motions and seconds to adjourn the meetings.
I will move.
So,
Second.
so assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA Finance and Program Committee, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the meeting is adjourned. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 The motions are carried and the meetings are adjourned.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much.
Is this